New places? All right. Let's do this. Have a good show, everyone. Stand by house to half and house out. House to half. Go. Lights 2 and house out. Go.
Friday, 5 p.m. This is how we do it. I'm wearing a brand new shirt for Lucky Episode 21. I'm wearing a brand new hat for Lucky Episode 21. I'm outside for Lucky Episode 21 because it is the first time since we started doing this show that simultaneously it is gorgeous and also there is no longer this terrifying fear of being on a shared roof with friends. So here we are. I am in New York. My guest is in Savannah. Very shortly, I will be in Savannah. I hope my guest will still be in Savannah. My guest and I have a habit of gift of the magi-ing each other. There have been multiple times that my guest has come to New York at the time that I was coming to Savannah. None of that's going to happen today because we are virtual. And the reason we're virtual is to bring my amazing guest to as wide of an audience as possible. Now, I want to remind everybody, if you're watching on the Facebooks or the YouTubes or the Twitches, you can comment directly into the feed, especially on Facebook, and ask questions or make comments to and about and for our guest. And I try very hard to keep up with them and pose them to our guests as the opportunity arises. So I want to talk about two things very quickly because we haven't had an episode in quite a while. I'm trying to remember. I think 21 is a lucky number. I mean, I think it's it's good in blackjack, right? I'm trying to see. Maybe my guest will nod yes or no. 21 is good in blackjack. My guest is nodding yes. 21 is good if you want to drink legally. I mean, there's a lot of good reasons that 21 is there. In fact, if you wanted to have a legal drink at Club One, a tremendous establishment in downtown Savannah, you would want to be 21, just like the number of this episode. Of course, episode 20 was our friend Geneva Carr, actor and wonderful human being. We had a fun time with her, and I had said at that point we would start doing the show with some sporadicness as it seemed to be a good time to program. And I had the thought late last week that I really wanted to talk to today's guest. So two things before we bring our guest on. First of all, I'm going to just say it dramatically. Naming rights, that's it. And there's the website. So if you are not aware yet that Savannah Rep is in the middle of a massive capital campaign for their new downtown venue. There it is. We love it. The former Southern Motors Acura building on Broughton Street at Broughton and Habersham. If you're not aware that this is happening, you obviously haven't been talking to me because it's all that I talk about. I talk about it at breakfast. I talk about it at lunch. I talk about it at dinner at Westway. We are in need for, at this time, continued gifts of all sizes, but specifically, we are looking for the right person or organization or family to be the naming rights of this building. Now, you might think it's odd for me to, on a Facebook Live video, ask for $100,000 for the naming rights to this building. Now, yes, it's an outlandish thing, but if you had asked me 5 weeks ago, will we have raised $70,000 towards this building in the next 5 weeks, I would have said that was an outlandish goal as well. So I'm resetting my concept of what is outlandish and what is not. So I don't think it's outlandish at all that if it's not you that is able to contribute these naming rights at this time, it might be someone you know, or it might be a family effort. So I am happy to discuss this with you. You can go to bit.ly/repcampaign to make a donation of any size. If you would like to be a naming rights sponsor, please email majorgifts@savannarep.org and speak directly to me, because as much as we love our Donor Perfect website, if you're going to write a $100,000 check, we'd prefer you not get slapped with those service fees. Okay, one other thing I want to talk about coming up next week, we're very excited about this, is you can't take it with you. So it's no longer naming rights, that's the wrong thing. It's you can't take it with you. SavannahRep.anywhereseat.com. So this is a very fun, in fact, I'll take down the title so you can see everybody's faces there. 40 plus of our former performers, the alumni of Savannah Rep's main stage seasons to this point. More than 40 people signed up for this. They were filmed on Zoom in multiple states, multiple time zones. The incredible Chris Bass of Savannah Performance Project has been painstakingly editing together 40 performances across 3 acts, where we change the cast every act. He's been painstakingly doing that. We're looking forward to it going up next Thursday through Sunday at SavannahRep.anywhereseat.com. Now, I have seen the dailies. It is a lot of fun. It is fun how funny this play is, and it's a great reminder of how some of the great comedies of the 30s, 40s, and 50s really just transcend not only time, but also means of delivery. It works as a streaming piece. We're excited to bring it to you as a streaming piece. And as of now, I don't want to speak too out of turn, as of now, it is the end of our streaming presentations, because we're very close to being able to announce that the next thing we will be bringing you is going to be live. Now, I can't yet tell you what that is or when it's going to be, although I have a sneaking suspicion. But I will tell you that those of you that went with us on this journey through our digital season pass will get to go with us on the journey of this first thing back, and we're very excited about it. Enough about all of that. You're all here to see my guest. His name is Travis Coles. He is coming into the mix right now. Please welcome to OnStageOff, Travis Coles.
Hi.
Hi. How are you, friend?
I'm all right. How are you?
I am well. Welcome to the show.
Thank you.
At one point, Chris Bass and I were having this conversation about who was going to have more digital content, whether it was going to be SPP or Savannah Rep, and he's at like 127 episodes, and I'm at 21. So I think it's obvious that his output is a little bit more regular than mine. But I have to say that we have the best guests here, and I think I'm allowed to say that because you've also already guested on his show. Is that correct?
Yes. Yeah. That was I think about a month and a half ago.
Excellent. He had the same good idea. He had it first, and then I wanted to wait a little bit till I had the same good idea.
Right.
So I have a question for you. You're so well known for so many different reasons in Savannah. You're known as a civic leader, and as a politician, and as a venue manager, and as an actor, and as a producer. I'd like to go all the way back to the beginning and ask you this question. What was the first thing that you encountered in regards to Savannah? What was your first visual memory, and when did it move from being a place that you had come to a place that you knew you were going to spend this massive amount of time and energy on and with?
In Savannah, you said?
In Savannah, yes.
Sorry, the audio is a little crackly.
I'll go more into the microphone.
So I think, growing up, I wasn't necessarily planning on living in Savannah. I bounced back and forth between Australia and Richmond Hill, and it wasn't really until I was an adult, in that 21-year-old age range, that I started spending some more time. There you go, 21, in downtown Savannah, and really got an appreciation for the beauty of it, and even more beyond that, the community of it. And that community is in a lot of different avenues. One, for the LGBTQ community, which I kind of came out when I was 19, and Savannah was the nearest kind of safe space for me, in Club One specifically. And then even beyond that, the theater community, which there's a lot of overlap with the LGBTQ community and the theater community naturally. But yeah, it became a home because of its beauty, its natural beauty and architecture, but very much because of the people. And if you had asked me when I was 18, will you be living in Savannah when you're 37? I would have said absolutely not. But now, I find myself finding two different sides of the world, feeling very comfortable as home. But Savannah is very much and very firmly one of them.
I love that. And for those that might be watching not from Savannah or haven't experienced it before, can you tell us a little bit about the history of Club One, and where it started, where it is now, and also as much as you would feel comfortable talking about sort of what your experience there was with COVID?
Oh yeah. Okay, so Club One was opened in July 1988, July 9th, 1988. And it was opened by Mark Fountain and a guy named Michael Polson. And they separated ways fairly early on, and Cale Hall came on board, and with sweat equity became a partner in the company. And they've been running it ever since then. You know, we're moving into our 34th year starting in July, which is amazing for any hospitality business, any restaurant or hotel. And I'm particularly proud of it. And I'm hoping to see it go through another 34 years at least. But yeah, we've gone through some interesting times, and COVID is definitely one of them. With us, you know, we were mandated to shut down by the governor for the rest of, what was it? It was basically April and May and a part of June. And even with June, you know, we kind of sort of opened for a few days and tested the waters and then backed out, and kind of came back towards the second week of July. And it's been a process, you know, of our staff. We've had, I think it's 14 cases, including myself. I got it. I'm pretty sure that myself and one of the other staff members got it on New Year's Eve, because we both had symptoms 3 days later. And I've been wearing my mask, you know, the entire time, using hand sanitizer, you know, doing all the things the CDC said to do. So it seemed like just a matter of time before it caught up. But yeah, I was fortunate that my case was fairly mild. I actually just got my second vaccine shot today, literally about an hour ago. But yeah, that's been an interesting process. As far as the club goes, though, yeah, the efforts that we're making to continue it on into the future is really working with the new owner of the property. I'm hoping that, even though there's a for sale sign on the building, I'm hoping that they'll come back around and decide to continue with their idea of doing a distillery that kind of would be complementary to Club One. They had actually intended to call their rum product Club One Rum. So that would have been cool. And I'm hoping that will be something that may come back around, depending on how the market is for the sale of the building. If the building does sell, our intention is to find another location and to continue on the Club One legacy, which of course includes the Lady Chablis and countless other employees over our 33 years in business.
Yeah, it's been a beautiful experience for me, coming up on 20 years of visits and occasional employment and doing shows at this beautiful place. And it is amazing to have been friends with people that started coming to the club as patrons, and now are doing the shows and are, you know, behind the bar. It's this beautiful family, and it's sort of the thing that once Club One grabs someone, you're always a part of that. There's no separation period.
Absolutely.
Now, as far as the theater, Bay Street Theater, which operates currently from the stage at Club One, I believe, and correct me if I'm wrong, it was in the office at Savannah Actors Theater in the old freight station, where you told me that you were going to start doing theater. I believe that was where that happened. Am I remembering that story correctly?
Yeah. So the first time I met you was when you guys had come in to hand out flyers for Rocky Horror. And I was always a big fan of Rocky Horror as a kid. I'd never seen the full live production. And I joined you guys over at Savannah Actors Theater to watch the full production. And I was absolutely in love in many ways. And, you know, we had this stage and continue to at Club One that saw drag shows on it 2 nights a week, but it wasn't getting used enough, in my opinion. And so I pitched this idea with the owners of the club, and you know, I brought it to you, especially with Rocky Horror needing a home. And I was very, very grateful and honored and happy to be able to kind of pick that up. And I thought, like, what better home for the craziness that is Rocky Horror than the LGBTQ nightclub that's, you know, been around for decades. So yeah, that really kind of kicked it off. And, you know, the very first show that we did was actually the Vagina Monologues, and it was a Trish Sugarek directed and kind of produced it. And that was a fundraiser for the Rape Crisis Center. And that was another thing that we kind of continued over the years. We've had some off years where we didn't do it, but that was always part of the mission as well, was to partner with local charities. But yeah, it's Bay Street Theater. I think we started in 2011, I want to say, maybe 2010. We went through this.
Yeah, so it was you were doing your first Rocky, at least you were doing your first Hedwig in the fall of like the end of 2009, actually. I think.
I think
I
think 2009 was the first year. Yeah, I really need to write these dates down because I keep misdating.
Well, I was impressed that you came out with the date that the club opened. That's a date I don't think I'd ever heard, and you just came out with that, which was great. So
well, and it's funny because the story behind that is Cale and Mark like to argue over what the opening date was. Mark calls it I think he says it's the second Friday in July, but the actual date was July 9th. So Mark doesn't like it being on a date because he likes it to be on a weekend night that you could celebrate an anniversary on, which is ironic because he never likes to celebrate anniversaries because he thinks it's bad luck. But like we're going to be coming up on 35 years here in a year or two. You know, we need to be able to plan something out.
yeah, that's 35 years is an incredible achievement. Even if you are anniversary averse. So yeah, you took this, Savannah Actors Theater it was kind of, Rocky has such an interesting history in Savannah because, it was actually Jeff DeVincent at SCAD who was the first person to stage it in what I think had been, if not ever. I mean, obviously there has been a long and celebrated history of shadow casting, but as far as the staging of the musical, I think Jeff was the first one to do it in ever at SCAD. And then when Jeff came and was part of Savannah Actors Theater, he brought Rocky, and then we handed Rocky to you. And I want to talk about, you have two shows that are very well known for their longevity and their recurrence, which are Rocky and Hedwig. Both of which, as you were saying, are beautiful compliments to both the venue, its mission, the audience, all of that. When in the years in which both were being staged, when you were going between the two, can you talk a little bit about why they're both such great perennials for Bay Street specifically, and also what you as the producer and most of the time cast member, if not director, what were you looking for to keep it fresh year after year, as well as to make sure that there was that grounded nature of the things that people were expecting from it every year?
And continuing with Jeff, Jeff joined us for Rocky Horror as well at Bay Street, so I was very happy about that. And he's been, one of the big inspirations for a lot of the shows that we've done at Bay Street, including his first show that he did with us, which was Cabaret, which is incredible, and Chicago and Avenue Q and Sweeney Todd, and not last year. Everything feels like last year because last year didn't exist, but Hair in 2019. So Jeff is incredible, and we always love having him, and I'm hoping that we'll have him back, if not this year, sometime next year. But yeah, with Rocky Horror and with Hedwig both, there are lots and lots of issues that I have personal feelings on, as well as just general discussion between the two. With Rocky Horror, it's, we're at 40, 50, almost 50 years of the show. And there have been some evolutions on what is politically correct and acceptable. Like, we don't necessarily use the term transvestite anymore, but because of the nature of the origin of it, we kind of just understand what is implied by it. And with Laverne Cox, of course, that was an interesting take by Fox to do that with a trans woman. But these are shows that are important, especially right now. And, I was listening to NPR earlier. There's so many states in this country right now that are creating legislation that are negatively affecting the trans community in this country, and needlessly. The phrase that I've heard the most is they're finding a solution for a problem that doesn't exist. And it's particularly, some of these bills are really negatively affecting trans kids. And so at a time when politicians are attacking people for who they are, I think it's as important as ever to really have artistic outlets that are exposing, and representing those communities. And there are certainly probably better shows that we need to look into to represent that than necessarily Rocky Horror and Hedwig, because Hedwig is kind of a case of someone who was a reluctant transitioning person. I don't know that Hedwig was ever intending to become a woman until it was kind of thrust upon her as a way of escaping, communist Germany. But so there's a lot of topics of conversation that you can have with both of these shows, but they really tie back to the community, even if not absolutely directly. It really brings the conversation forward that people don't necessarily always have. Another show that's kind of along those lines, but not quite, because it's not a trans woman, it's a drag queen, would be Kinky Boots. But it still deals with people and accepting people for who they are, even if you don't understand what that is. So I think that it is very important for our mission for Bay Street Theater, especially being in Club One, to have shows that are topical to the issues that face the LGBTQ community.
I think so, and I'm. It's interesting to hear you talk about the idea that maybe even the next great tradition hasn't even been written yet, or maybe maybe there's something in the vein of Kinky Boots, something of that era. It's interesting. I think you and I have discussed this before, that Hedwig and Rocky Horror, it is interesting that in both cases, in Hedwig, you have a trans character that has all of this shame and opportunism based around their trans identity, and then in Rocky Horror, it's become something different than it is, because at the very root of it, Frank is an awful human being. Like Frank is an awful character. Yeah, what's that?
Awful alien, not human.
Oh, right. I apologize. An awful alien played by beautiful humans.
Right.
But specific. So yes, an awful alien, which helps. But also, it's just such an interesting that I think we, as Rocky has aged, we have celebrated its celebration, and some of the things that are not that have aged a little bit aggressively. The sexual misconduct and all of those things are just so interesting. So I am curious to see what will become the next traditions, because for a lot of communities and in a lot of parts of the United States, those two shows are the answers for these organizations that are wanting to promote healthy and positive LGBTQIA plus conversations and communities and identities. Anyway, that's not really a question as much as it is me thinking out loud. So,
and the thing is, like with Rocky, I absolutely agree that a lot of things in it haven't aged well, but it's somehow survived when a lot of other shows haven't, with issues that don't age well. And I think that, if you discuss the context of it, it's important. Absolutely, like, consent is an issue in the show, but then on the reverse side of that, you have this back and forth where someone's like, no, oh, but wait, maybe I do want this. And that also has to do with questioning your sexuality and being comfortable with your sexuality, even if society is saying that's not what you should be. So it's a really sticky situation, but I think that you could literally write a master's thesis on it and not have the right answer at the end of the day. It's just something that you kind of have to take on the surface level, on the entertainment side of things, but also know that several of the themes in it are not acceptable, and that he's not a hero, that he's like you said, actually the character is actually more of a villain, even though you end up feeling kind of sorry for him in the end. But he's definitely not a role model in any way, and not someone anyone should base their behaviors towards other people on.
Right. Now, going completely off in a different direction, if people watching are not historians of the Savannah theater community to the level that I am, I am obsessed with, not just from where I came in 2002, but I'm obsessed with the stories of the 10, 20, 30 years before that. But I don't know that a lot of people realize that Bay Street Theater really bridged a very interesting moment in the theater community in Savannah, in that the freight station was transitioning to Muse Arts Warehouse and becoming more of a roadhouse. As far as producing organizations, you and Valerie and your team, they were picking up a lot of responsibility and a lot of I don't want to say slack, because that suggests that people weren't. It's not slack, but a lot of absence. I think that's the word I would want to use. Do you remember at that era, which I think would be like 2000, probably maybe 12 to 15 or 12 to 16? Do you remember feeling the pressure of that at all, or did it just feel like you were trying to do as good of a job as possible at all times?
The thing is, I think it was really the opportunity that presented itself. With other theater companies that were in transition. And the fact that we had Chris Stanley, Valerie, later on Jinhee and Aaron joined us, Sean McGuire, Jeff DeVinson, of course. We had the perfect storm of people and of talent to create these shows at a time where it wasn't necessarily available to everybody. I think having alcohol available helped. That's one thing that Bay Street has that is kind of unique to the Savannah community theater scene. Certainly you won't get that at the Children's Theater. Nothing against Children's Theater. I love the Children's Theater.
Guilty as charged up to this point. Yeah.
But there's something about, especially with those that are over 21, at the end of a rehearsal, being able to go downstairs and share a drink, and even if you don't drink, just share the camaraderie of it. Because I think oftentimes when we have rehearsals, especially if they're stressful rehearsals, we come away from them almost deflated sometimes. And I think that having that social atmosphere, and it doesn't have to include alcohol, but having that social atmosphere after the rehearsal to decompress or vent or whatever you need to do, it helped because it made it easier to come back for the next rehearsal, or it makes it easier, I should say. It's not past tense. But yeah, that transition period for us, it was really just the right people at the right time. I had more time on my hands because I wasn't doing real estate and political stuff as well. So I had the energy and the time and the space, and the other folks that joined me had the energy and the time, and we enjoyed each other's company. We were friends. Doing theater wasn't just doing theater; it was hanging out with friends. We got a little ambitious. There was that one year that we did 8 shows, and that was insane.
That was wild to watch.
It was so much fun, and it's so tiring by the end of the year. But like looking back on it, I wouldn't change anything. I would certainly not do that again. But I wouldn't change having done it, because it really makes you appreciate how much time and effort goes into trying to mount that many productions, even with some of the smaller productions. But yeah, it's really having the right people that just click.
And I love what you said too. It's something I've always been so aware of that it never really occurred to me. This specifically is that having that second space that is still inside the building can be alcohol or not, is so vital, that it's this idea that you don't have to go home or fight a crowd at a bar or a restaurant to still be with your friends after rehearsal, but you're also not just on stage decompressing, because I think most all actors would agree there's no easy way to stay in the theater space, especially during Tech Week. You need to be out of that room for a little while, and there's no relaxation as long as you're still there. So that is something so beautiful about your space, is that there's this whole other floor just moments away that is the perfect place to be friends.
Yeah, and now we've got karaoke 7 days a week. So if you feel like you messed up on stage, you can go down there and sing your heart out. And I have to say this, since you're the host here, that you joined us very much as one of the pioneering karaoke DJs at Club One, back when we had Insomniacs with Kevin, and we've since kind of transitioned into I can't even remember the name of the Care Fund is what we're using now, which is kind of cool because get new music fairly often. But yeah, it's and you were also, of course, very much a part of Bay Street Theater. We had a lot of people that have been with us, and like you said earlier, both Bay Street Theater and Club One, if you've been with us, you're always with us. It's always part of the family. And I, particularly right now when a lot of bars, restaurants, and just businesses in general are struggling to find staff, I'm just blown away by the fact that, I've got staff that have been there for longer than I have. And I've been there for 16 and a half years at this point. I think the shortest person that's been working there has been there for, well, I've got a door person that's been there for about 2 months, but the next longest is probably, or the next shortest is probably a year and a half. So we don't have a high turnover, and they've stuck with us, and we've done what we could to help them through COVID. But yeah, it is very much a family, not a family friendly atmosphere, but a family atmosphere.
Well, I have a very, very good, speaking of family friendly, I have an incredible memory of you singing "Consider Yourself" to my parents the first time that they came to Club That's One, right. to make sure that they felt as welcome as I had the first time that I stepped in to this space. So thank you for that. Also, do you remember, just off the top of your head, do you remember what my drink of choice was when I was a karaoke DJ at Club One?
Vodka cranberry with olives?
Vodka, but I always held the vodka.
Yeah, right.
So it was cranberry just cranberry juice.
Yeah, with olives. Who does that?
I think that was something I did. I ordered it as a joke, and then I ordered it a second time because someone hadn't seen the original joke. Right, and by then I was like, this isn't the worst thing in the world. So I think it just became my thing. I don't know.
Salty. So I mean, the flavors go well together. So.
Now, I didn't even, I listed some of the things that you do at the beginning of the interview, and I didn't even get to realtor, which a lot of people now are getting to know you for the first time as their realtor, even if they've never been to the club or never seen you act or seen you direct and produce. So do you have this, with all the things that you do politically, as a realtor, as a creator and artist, do you have this desire to just have continuing education? I mean, what drives you to find these new avenues of yourself that are in a lot of times are in a very different direction than what you're already established as?
So with real estate, a few things. One, I've always been interested in the home building process. You know, when I grew up in Richmond Hill and in Strathy Hall was the neighborhood, the entire other half of the neighborhood was nothing but woods. And then they started developing it. And as a kid, I would walk through the houses. I was always interested in the layouts and the different designs. And I think that's something that always stuck with me. Originally, going through high school, I was interested in going into architecture and never really got there. With real estate, though, you know, I bought a rental property around the corner from me and kind of started learning the process. And then for me, you know, it's, especially for first-time home buyers, it's always a challenge. And there's a lot of moving pieces with it. You've got the lender involved, you've got the closing attorney, the seller, the buyer. Then you have the brokerages that are kind of the big brother of both the buyer and the seller. And not to get too detailed in it, but for me, it was another opportunity for something that I was interested in, that I enjoyed. You know, the economic side of things doesn't hurt because you know, with my position at the club, until someday that I may become owner, you know, you kind of hit a ceiling for your financial ability for growth. And so I was looking for other avenues to kind of supplement and help me, ironically, to help me have enough money to have free time to do the things that I want to do. And then I discovered that it takes a lot of time, and sometimes that kind of cuts into the free time to do the things that you want to do. But that's another thing that I wouldn't change. You know, I've had my license now. I'm in my 4th year. Which is kind of green for some of the agents in Savannah, but there are also a ton of new agents from the last couple of years. But the main thing is just being able to help other people through the process. I'd like to see a lot of these non-traditional homeowners become homeowners, particularly in Savannah. You know, there's a disparity across the country with minority homeownership, and we need to change that. And there's several books written on it about the redlining, historic redlining, and anyone that thinks that, not to get too political, but anyone that thinks that there's not ingrained racial issues within our laws, they're just not paying attention. And real estate is really the first place to look where you'll see that, and where there's clear evidence of it. So I'd like to see a lot of, like, my staff who don't own homes. I'd like to see them own homes. I'd like to see a lot of these folks who never think about owning to go ahead and buy. And the people who are renting, I want them to understand you're paying someone else's mortgage. So if you can save up a little bit of money for the upfront costs, once you're in a home, you're paying towards your own future, to your own retirement. And it also goes into generational wealth, because when you pass that home along, when you pass on, your kids have tangible wealth. With a lot of minority communities, especially the African American community, have historically been denied that. But yeah, so that was part of the motivation for the process. But yeah, I don't like to have free time, so I just decided to take on another task.
And we're, you know, as a theater company, we're a nonprofit. We are fully allowed to get political. The only thing that we can't do is we can't express the theater's opinions, but we can absolutely host yours. And at the times of which in the past you've run for public office, the theater was not in any way allowed to suggest that you would have been the candidate that we would have voted for. But we're all allowed to go down to the ballot box and do exactly what we want to do, which is the beauty of America.
Right.
So I do want to talk about that, actually, just to kind of double back about the redlining. It's something that I going down several more grant avenues than ever before with Savannah Rep, and obviously, you know, the reality that this new building is going to require community involvement at a level we've never seen before. But it's not all the community's responsibility. It's going to need to be grants. It's going to need to be NEA and state level grants. But I am suddenly having access to a lot of demographic information and numbers and spreadsheets of things I had never realized about Savannah, and I have tried very hard to understand what you're talking about these generational wealth gaps and also the redlining. When you became a realtor, did you suddenly have more access to information that helped you broaden your understanding of those things that you were interested in just by nature of your new position?
Not exactly. So the information that people should be reading is available to everyone. You don't have to be a licensed realtor to be able to have access to it. And honestly, give me 1 second. I'm going to be right back. I'll show you a book that should be read. Give me 1 second. I'll be right back.
Excellent. I'm going to run through these amazing comments that people are putting on. I tell you what, I knew having Travis on was going to bring everybody to the stream today. So we've got the amazing Dandy Barrett, actor with so many credits and a reputation higher than the sky itself in Savannah. We miss her so much. I have to admit about Dandy, one of the things I was most looking forward to about coming back and having a major connection to Savannah again was working with her, so maybe she can come back down south. My mom remembers very fondly that Travis saying, "Consider yourself." I assume this is either Chris Bass or his new social media intern that I don't know that he has yet hired, saying howdy y'all. And then we have the incredible Ken Neal Haley, founding artistic director of Savannah Rep, saying hello all, good to see everyone. I will shout out to Ken in this moment, just talking about community and grant. Ken, with the help of the staff, did an amazing treatment of a grant for us this week. I'm not going to talk about what it is because I don't want to jinx it, but we're very grateful to Ken, and thank you for all of that work and continued efforts. Chris Bass says, Travis is an amazing guest. That's true. Speaking of which, here's Travis Coles.
So this is the book, The Color of Law by Richard Rothstein. I'm not all the way through it yet, but it's really great reading if you want to understand institutionalized racism in the United States as recently as the 70s and 80s. And it's a little more veiled now, but it's something that really should be looked at. And the whole idea of generational wealth is built upon owning property, owning real estate. And that has been traditionally denied the African-American community. And especially all across the country, but you can see it even in Savannah in the way that historic Black neighborhoods have been segregated and sometimes even physically divided by infrastructure without any real regard to how that affects those communities. And that's part of that is not just coming from me from real estate, but from my time on the Metropolitan Planning Commission board. I'm in year 6 right now, I think. Year 5 or 6 with them. 5. I think I'm going into 6. But that has been really interesting because that is definitely something that staff discusses whenever we're looking at. I'm actually on a subcommittee for the comprehensive plan for 2040 for Chatham County, and they're doing a great job of incorporating minority issues as well in that minority issues, LGBTQ issues, which is something that hasn't necessarily traditionally been done at the planning level, which I'm really, really excited about. But yeah, sorry, that's like nerding out on that side.
I'm so grateful that you are. I want to say for those people watching that don't know you well, and I am honored that you are. It's coming up on one of my longest friendships, which delights and is makes me very happy. For those that don't know Travis, I would like to think that we should all aspire to not only having the depth of interests or the breadth of interests and ambitions that you have, Travis, but also the fact that it is very clear to everyone that you lead with your kindness and your desire to help others, and you dovetail those into the things that you do rather than going into things with the concept of how they will serve you first, which is always, so you're an incredible human being, Travis.
And you are too kind. I appreciate that.
So to that end, my last question, you have received the award in the past of Best Savannahian.
Yeah, I don't understand that. there are so many other deserving Savannahians, and I feel like that might have been a Jeff DeVincent setup at some point with his students or something. I don't know. And I think that because I think it's like the second or third time now, and because that's been paired with Best Liberal, and I think that was also a Jeff DeVincent setup. But I think it's for the last few times. I think it's just because they had the drop box and people just voted for whoever was on the drop menu. So I think that I'm grateful, I'm honored, but there are certainly other people in the city of Savannah that are deserving of it, and I hope that they will get that recognition.
That's just that's the period on the sentence that I just said. That is you, Travis, acknowledging that something you are incredibly deserving of is also something that you'd be happy to see go to someone else.
Everyone should have it. Everyone that puts their heart and soul into the city should. And I can think of many people.
So my last question, because I know we've already gone longer than I intended to, which is just since it's just what I do on this show, because I talk to people that I am very, very fond of, and I want to talk to them forever. So my last question is, was there something that was either in the works when COVID shut everything down, or is there something that is, if not in the works, is there a piece that you're obviously, Bay Street is so very well known for really clever re-envisionings. I mean, Jeff DeVinson and your team, and I'm thinking of Cecilia's work in hair, and Chris Stanley's work, just these incredible performances and incredible pieces, but not necessarily pieces you would expect to see in that kind of staging. They almost take on a site-specific aesthetic because the site, while a theater, is very specific. So is there a musical or a straight play that you would still love to see in that room before it changes aesthetic, a piece that you still think that the walls need to see in there?
Yes. So one thing, because you mentioned her name, and I'm such a jerk for not saying it earlier, Cecilia has very much been a part of the theater company for many years. She was actually on the Rate Crisis board when we did our very first fundraiser for the Vagina Monologues for Rape Crisis Center. And she's incredibly talented. I love her so much. She was with us for Hair in 2019, and everyone who sees her on stage loves seeing her on stage. And we're starting another kind of cabaret series coming up in our space. It's kind of co-produced with a guy named Rick, who's going to be, sorry, I've got other people pulling up the driveway right now. But yeah, he's going to be putting it all together, and we're going to be starting that next month. I'm excited about that. We hope to have Cecilia as part of that at some point. My assistant and partner, Trey Norris, will be a very big part of that, also known as Trey LaTrash, who is incredibly talented, has played Frankenfurter, was voted Best Actor for Connect Savannah a year ago. Could not do any of this without him. He really is near and dear to my heart, and we've got a lot of things, exciting things coming up for us. But yeah, so the shows that I would like to see in the space, one thing that I discussed with Jeff was Hairspray. I know it'd be kind of weird to go from hair to Hairspray, but I think it's topical, and I think that John Waters' show is only too perfect for Club One in the Bay Street Theater. There are a few other shows that have been floated. I don't want to give anyone's ideas away, but yeah, I'm looking forward to having Rocky back in this year. So we'll have Rocky 2021. And then I think that we will probably look at doing 2 or 3 shows in 2022. And one thing that Jeff had always said that he would love to do is Xanadu on the ground floor, because it's, as he describes, the magical mirror ball, mystical room, unicorn room, or however he described it. But yeah, I'm open to continuing to do theater and continuing Bay Street at the club. And I'm hoping that, as I had said, the people who own the building now will come back and keep us in the space, and that we can continue. But no matter where we go, the stage will absolutely be the central focus of it. Our drag shows are central focus. So no matter what we do, where we go, theater will be part of Club One.
I love that. I love that message. I love that mission. You and I are on the same wavelength of 2 things. Well, first of all, Cecilia is on our board now, thank goodness. And just absolutely, you all missed it because it was a board meeting, but we're going through architectural proposals right now, and she is a force of nature, getting things done for Rep, which we're very grateful to her for. But also, our building is in a very similar situation, and we are also, for our original space, the Play Shop. So we're very much hoping that there is a future there that is able to continue presenting in the way that we have been, as well as being able to present in this new beautiful venue on Broughton Street. So as always, a lot of the companies are on parallel journeys, even when they don't intend to be, and I'm grateful that you and I are on those journeys together. So Travis, I'm going to let you go because the show has gone far too long, but we've had people watching the whole time, which means obviously you were doing something right. Savannah Performance Project loves Xanadu. A gentleman named Max Coles is so proud.
My dad.
We've got, so both of our parents have jumped. Both of our parents, members of our parentage, have watched this episode. So
perfect.
Travis, I'm going to let you go. Thank you so much for being part of OnStageOff. I will see you in, I hope, about a week and a half.
Awesome. Thank you. Hope you see that.
All right, bye, friend. All right, everyone, that's episode 21. That's very lucky episode 21. There it is. As a reminder, our tickets are available now for, you can't take it with you, at savannarep.anywhereseat.com. I'm going to let that roll a little bit. Savannarep.org is where you can find all the information, and obviously I'm going to let this roll through the entire postlude because right now we need your donations more than ever. We are looking forward to coming to Savannah in a new way. We're looking forward to being able to collaborate and have a space that is open and available for incredible community collaborators like Travis and Cecilia and Chris and Valerie and Trey, and I'm thinking about Jeff DeVince, all the names that came up during today. Thanks very much. I'm your host, Ryan McCurdy. We will see you, I don't know when, but I'm so happy that when we do, we will see you there. Have a wonderful day. These are unparalleled times. In the heart of Savannah, it felt as if the hands of the clock stopped moving. Forsyth Park strangely empty, Broughton Street quiet, River Street deserted. And we wondered, what happens next?
Nationwide, every performing artist, director, designer, stage manager, and crew member have been left without the opportunity to pursue their passion for live theater. But it is also a unique moment to combat our fear of the unknown with renewed diligence for hard work and for those we love.
We must take care of each other to see this through together. Savannah Repertory Theater has produced 3 years of ambitious, imaginative, professional theater for Savannah. And our family grows larger with every production.
Savannah Rep is proud to help define excellence in Savannah's ever-growing list of artistic venues. Live theater isn't going anywhere. It survives everything and becomes a record of our history. We will return.
To our generous patrons and season card subscribers, you keep this dream alive and growing. And to the many artists who have shared our stages, you challenge us, entertain us, and thrill us. Soon we will be together again.
The Ghost Light, a single bulb left center stage after each performance, has traditionally served as a supernatural offering to those who came before us and those we have lost, to ensure that the theater, their theater, never goes dark.
That the magic of theater continues. Theaters from Broadway to the West End, Los Angeles to Savannah may be closed for now, but their ghost lights remain lit.
Our spirits remain hungry, our responsibilities clear. We look at this as an opportunity, a chance to build on the work we've done.
A chance to embrace our theatrical roots and create new adventures.
What we do now paves the way for the years to come, for the Savannah Rep of the future.
We promise that the ghost light will burn brightly until it is safe to begin again.
It is our responsibility to carry on the traditions that precede us. We are Savannah Rep.
A home for great stories and great theater. The hands of the clock will move again, and this is not the end of the story.
It's a new beginning.
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 And we'll see you soon.